a quiet English village tucked away in the countryside, where everyone knows each other's business, or so they think. But when a single, seemingly harmless letter arrives, it unravels secrets that even the sharpest gossips couldn't dream of. Welcome to St. Mary Mead, where Miss Marple, the unassuming spinster with a knack for solving mysteries, is about to uncover the truth behind a string of puzzling events. Ready to dive into her world of secrets, clues, and clever deductions? Let's get started. Welcome to St. Mary Mead, a picture-perfect village where the days are slow, the tea is always brewing, and secrets lurk behind every lace-curtained window. I'm so excited to take you on this journey through Miss Marple's world, where nothing is ever quite as it seems. If you love a good mystery with a cozy twist, you're in the right place, so grab a cuppa, settle in, and let's unravel the first thread of our story. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're ready for some sleuthing. St. Mary Mead is the kind of place where everyone knows your name, your habits, and probably what you had for breakfast. It's a sleepy village with quaint cottages, a bustling vicarage, and a high street where the post office doubles as the gossip hub. But beneath the surface of this idyllic setting, there's a web of secrets just waiting to be untangled. Our guide through this maze is Miss Jane Marple, a silver-haired spinster who knits gardens and observes everything, absolutely everything. She's not your typical detective, but her sharp mind and uncanny understanding of human nature make her the perfect person to solve the mysteries that bubble up in this deceptively quiet village. Now, let's set the scene. It's a crisp autumn morning, and Miss Marple is sitting in her cozy parlour, her knitting needles clicking softly as she gazes out her window. The village is buzzing with its usual rhythm. Mrs. Price, the postmistress, is sorting letters. The vicar is planning his next sermon, and young Tommy from the butcher's shop is delivering orders on his bicycle. But something's off. Miss Marple notices a stranger lingering near the village green, a man in a grey coat who doesn't quite belong. He's been seen before, always at odd hours, always watching. Who is he, and why is he here? That's the question that's been tickling Miss Marple's curiosity, and trust me, when something catches her eye, it's never just a coincidence. Let's talk about why St. Mary Mead is such a perfect setting for a mystery. It's small, so everyone's connected, but that closeness breeds secrets. People hide things, affairs, grudges, even crimes, because they know how quickly gossip spreads. Miss Marple, though, has a gift for seeing through the facade. She knows that the butcher's boy who's always late might be sneaking off to meet someone, or that the vicar's new assistant seems a bit too interested in the church's old records. These little details, the ones everyone else overlooks, are the clues she collects like pieces of a puzzle. For example, just last week, she noticed Mrs. Price sorting a letter with no return address, addressed to someone who doesn't exist in the village directory. Odd, right? Miss Marple tucks that detail away, because in St. Mary Mead, even a misplaced letter can mean trouble. So, how does Miss Marple do it? How does she spot these clues when everyone else is blissfully unaware? It's all about observation and understanding people. She's spent years watching the villagers, learning their quirks, their habits, their tells. She knows that Mrs. Dane, who runs the tea shop, always fidgets with her apron when she's nervous, or that Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, only hums when he's hiding something. It's like she's got a mental map of St. Mary Mead with every villager's secrets pinned to it. And here's a tip for you. If you want to be a detective in your own life, start paying attention to the little things. Notice how someone's tone changes when they talk about a certain topic, or how they avoid eye contact when a specific name comes up. Those are the crumbs that lead to the truth. As the day unfolds, Miss Marple's suspicions grow. The stranger in the grey coat is seen again, this time slipping a note under the door of the old manor house, a place that's been empty for years. The village is starting to whisper, who's he writing to, and why now? Miss Marple doesn't rush to conclusions, though. She sips her tea, knits another row, and thinks, that's her secret weapon, patience. She knows the truth will come out, but only if she watches and waits. For us, this is just the beginning of the mystery, a single thread in a much larger tapestry. By the end of this story, we'll see how one small clue like that mysterious letter can unravel a whole web of secrets. So, what's next? The stranger's note is about to stir up trouble, and Miss Marple's already one step ahead. In our next chapter, we'll dive into the moment when that letter is opened, and the villager's calm starts to crack. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. If you're loving this cozy mystery vibe, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. Comment below, do you think you'd spot the clues in St. Mary Mead, or would Miss Marple have you beat? Let's keep sleuthing together. The sun's barely peeked over the hills of St. Mary Mead, and already the village is humming with something new. That mysterious note, slipped under the manor house door by the stranger in the grey coat, has been found, and it's not just any note. It's a single sheet of paper, written in sharp, slanted handwriting, and it's addressed to someone called the Keeper of Secrets. Spooky, right? Miss Marple hasn't seen the note yet, but word travels fast in a place like this, and she's already piecing things together from her armchair. Today, we're diving into the moment that note is opened, how it sends ripples through St. Mary Mead, and why Miss Marple's instincts tell her this is just the beginning. If you're hooked on this mystery, smash that like button and let's unravel this together. Let's set the stage. The manor house, a grand old place that's been boarded up since old Colonel Bantry passed away, is the talk of the village. It's been empty for years, its windows dark, its garden overgrown. So when Tommy, the butcher's boy, spots that note under the door while making his morning deliveries, it's big news. He doesn't dare touch it. Tommy's a bit superstitious, but he runs straight to Mrs. Price at the post office, who's only too happy to spread the word. By noon, half the village knows about the mysterious letter, and everyone's got a theory. Is it a prank, a love letter, or something darker? Miss Marple, sipping her tea in her parlour, hears the gossip through her open window and smiles. She knows a clue when she sees one, even if it's second-hand. Now, let's talk about the note itself. Mrs. Dane, the tea shop owner, is the one who finally retrieves it, since she's got a key to the manor from helping the late Colonel's widow. Years ago, she gathers a small crowd because nothing in St. Mary Mead happens without an audience, and opens the note. The words are simple but chilling. The Keeper of Secrets must come forward, or the truth will be told. No signature, no hint of who sent it, just that cryptic message. The crowd gasps. Mrs. Dane's hands tremble, and even Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, stops humming for once. Who's the Keeper of Secrets, and what truth is the note talking about? The village is buzzing with questions, but Miss Marple, listening to the story from a neighbour, is already thinking 3 steps ahead. Here's where Miss Marple's genius shines. She doesn't need to see the note to know it's important. She's already cataloguing the reactions of everyone involved. Mrs. Dane, for instance, is fidgeting with her apron more than usual, a sure sign she's nervous. Mr. Hobbs, who's been tending the manor's garden on the sly, looks pale when the note's contents are read aloud. And then there's the vicar's new assistant, Mr. Ellis, who's been asking odd questions about the manor's history lately. Miss Marple doesn't jump to conclusions, but she's building a mental list of people to watch. It's like she's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Want to think like Miss Marple? Here's a tip: when something big happens, don't just focus on the event, watch how people react. A nervous glance, a forced laugh, or even silence can tell you more than words. Let's dig deeper into why this note matters. St. Mary Mead thrives on routine, so anything out of the ordinary, like a cryptic letter, sets off alarm bells. The note's vagueness is what makes it so unsettling. It's not a direct threat, but it's a promise of trouble. And in a village where everyone's got something to hide, that's enough to make people nervous. Miss Marple knows this better than anyone. She's seen it before. A single spark, like a rumor or a strange event, can ignite a firestorm of secrets. For example, a few years back, a misplaced diary at the vicarage led to a scandal about the churchwarden's gambling debts. This note feels like that diary all over again, a small thing that could unravel everything as the day goes on. The village can't stop talking about the note. Mrs. Price swears it's the work of an outsider, maybe that stranger in the grey coat. Tommy thinks it's a ghost because he's read too many penny dreadfuls, but Miss Marple has a different theory. She's noticed that the manor house, empty as it seems, has been visited more often lately. Footprints in the garden, a window left ajar, little things that don't add up. She's also thinking about the stranger who's been spotted again, this time near the church. Is he the one writing the notes, or is he just a distraction? Miss Marple doesn't know yet, but she's patient. She'll watch, listen, and wait for the next clue to fall into place. Here's a practical tip for all you budding detectives out there. Don't rush to solve a mystery. Miss Marple's strength is her ability to let the pieces come together naturally. If you're trying to figure out a puzzle in your own life, maybe a friend's acting weird or something doesn't add up at work, take a step back. Write down what you know, who's involved, and what feels off. Then, like Miss Marple, watch and wait. The truth has a way of bubbling up when you give it time. By evening, St. Mary Mead is on edge. The note's been locked away in the vicarage for safekeeping, but its words are still echoing. People are looking at each other differently, wondering who the keeper of secrets might be. Miss Marple, meanwhile, is knitting quietly, her mind racing. She's already thinking about the manor's history, the people tied to it, and what secrets it might hold. The note's just the first domino, and she knows more will fall soon. What's coming next? In our next chapter, we'll follow Miss Marple as she starts digging into the manor's past, uncovering a clue that ties the note to a long-forgotten scandal. It's going to get juicy, so stick around. If you're loving this mystery, hit that like button and subscribe to catch the next chapter. Drop a comment below. Who do you think the keeper of secrets is? Let's keep sleuthing together. The sun's dipping low over St. Mary Mead, casting long shadows across the village green, and the mysterious note from the manor house is still the talk of every tea shop and garden gate. That cryptic message, the keeper of secrets, must come forward or the truth will be told, has everyone on edge, wondering what secrets are about to spill. Miss Marple, our sharp-eyed sleuth, isn't one to sit idle. She's already turning her attention to the old manor house, a place steeped in history and whispers of scandal. Today, we're diving into Miss Marple's first steps as she digs into the manor's past, uncovering a clue that ties the note to something long buried. If you're as hooked on this mystery as I am, give that like button a tap and let's keep unraveling this puzzle together. Let's start with the manor house itself. It's a grand, crumbling relic of St. Mary Mead's past, with ivy-covered walls and windows that haven't seen a proper cleaning in years. Once the home of Colonel Bantry and his wife, it's been empty since the Colonel's death a decade ago. The villagers avoid it, partly because it's eerie, partly because it's tied to stories they'd rather forget. Miss Marple, though, sees it as the heart of this mystery. She's been thinking about that note, its strange wording, and the stranger in the grey coat who left it. Why the manor? Why now? She decides it's time to do what she does best: poke around, ask questions, and listen to the village's whispers. This morning, Miss Marple takes a stroll to the vicarage, where the note's been locked away for safekeeping. She chats with the vicar, Mr. Clement, who's a kind soul but a bit flustered by all the drama. He shows her the note, and Miss Marple studies it closely, not just the words, but the paper itself. It's thick, expensive, with a faint watermark that looks like a crest. Interesting, she murmurs, her eyes twinkling. She doesn't say much, but she's already thinking about the manor's history and who might have used paper like that. The vicar mentions that his assistant, Mr. Ellis, has been digging through old church records lately, looking for details about the manor's former owners. That piques Miss Marple's interest. Why is Mr. Ellis so curious? She makes a mental note to keep an eye on him now. Let's talk about the manor's past. Miss Marple knows it's not just a house, it's a vault of secrets. Back in the day, Colonel Bantry was a respected figure, but his family wasn't without its shadows. There was talk of a falling out with his younger brother, Edward, who left St. Mary Mead under a cloud of gossip. Some said it was about money, others whispered about a woman. Then there was the Colonel's daughter, Clara, who ran off to London and never returned. These are the kinds of stories that linger in a village, half forgotten but never fully gone. Miss Marple decides to visit Mrs. Dane at the tea shop, who's old enough to remember the Bantry family's glory days. Over a pot of Earl Grey, Mrs. Dane spills some juicy details. Edward Bantry was seen at the manor just before he left, arguing with the Colonel about a locked box in the study. A box, Mrs. Dane says, that was never found after Edward disappeared. Here's where Miss Marple's knack for connecting dots comes in. That locked box sticks in her mind. Could it be tied to the keeper of secrets mentioned in the note? She knows better than to jump to conclusions, but she's starting to see a pattern. The manor, the note, the stranger in the grey coat, it's all circling around something hidden, something valuable. She thinks back to the watermark on the paper. It's not just any crest. It's the Bantry family crest, one she's seen on old letters in the village archives. This is her first big clue. Whoever wrote that note has a connection to the Bantry family, and they're using the manor to stir up trouble, want a sleuth like Miss Marple. Here's a tip. When you're trying to solve a puzzle, look for connections that seem out of place. A name, an object, a detail that doesn't fit often the key to unlocking the truth. As Miss Marple pieces this together, the village is still buzzing. Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, is acting odder than usual, avoiding the manor's grounds when he used to tend them regularly. Miss Marple notices this during her walk, spotting him lingering near the church instead. His hands dirty with soil that doesn't match the vicarage garden. Curious, she thinks. Meanwhile, Tommy, the butcher's boy, swears he saw the stranger in the grey coat again, this time carrying a small parcel near the manor's back gate. Miss Marple doesn't confront anyone, yet she never does. Instead, she files these details away, like a knitter tucking yarn into a neat ball. She knows the manor holds the answers, but she needs to get inside to confirm her suspicions. Let's talk about how Miss Marple approaches a mystery like this. She's not flashing her magnifying glasses or dramatic chasers. Her method is simple: observe, listen, and think. She's like a spider in a web, feeling every vibration. For example, when Mrs. Price mentions that Mr. Ellis has been asking about old manor blueprints, Miss Marple doesn't react outwardly, but inside, her mind's racing. Blueprints. That's not casual curiosity. She decides to pay a visit to the village archives herself, where she finds a dusty ledger mentioning a hidden room in the manor built during the Colonel's time. It's not much, but it's enough to make her wonder, what's in that room, and does the locked box have anything to do with it? Here's another detective tip for you. Don't ignore the past. Whether it's a family secret, an old grudge, or a forgotten place, history has a way of creeping into the present. If you're trying to figure out why someone's acting strange, think about what happened before, maybe a year ago, maybe 10. Miss Marple's always looking backward to move forward, and it's why she's so good at what she does. By the end of the day, Miss Marple's got a plan. She's going to get into the manor with Mrs. Dane's key and take a look around. She's not expecting to find the locked box or the hidden room right away, but she knows every step brings her closer to the truth. The village, meanwhile, is growing restless. The notes got everyone looking over their shoulders, wondering who's hiding what. Miss Marple, though, is calm as ever, knitting in her parlour as she waits for the next clue to drop. What's next? In our next chapter, we'll follow Miss Marple inside the manor, where a dusty discovery will shed light on the Bantry family's secrets and bring us closer to the keeper of secrets. It's getting good, so don't miss it. If you're loving this cozy mystery, hit that like button and subscribe to stay in the loop. Drop a comment below. Do you think the locked box is the key? Or is the stranger in the grey coat hiding something bigger? Let's keep sleuthing together. The air in St. Mary Mead is thick with tension, as if the village itself is holding its breath. That mysterious note, with its talk of the keeper of secrets, has everyone whispering, and the old manor house looms larger than ever in their minds. Miss Marple, our keen-eyed spinster, isn't one to let gossip steer her course. She's got Mrs. Dane's key to the manor in her pocket, and a plan to poke around inside. Today, we're following her through those creaky doors into the dusty halls of the manor, where a surprising discovery will shine a light on the Bantry family's buried secrets. If you're as caught up in this mystery as I am, hit that like button and let's step into the shadows together. The manor house is a time capsule, frozen since Colonel Bantry's days. Its heavy oak door groans as Miss Marple unlocks it, stepping into a foyer where dust motes dance in the slanted light. The air smells of old wood and neglect, and the silence is almost loud. She moves carefully, her sensible shoes tapping softly on the floorboards, her eyes scanning every detail. The manor's grandeur is faded, but still their ornate cornices, a grand staircase, and portraits of stern-faced Bantrys staring down. Miss Marple's not here for sightseeing, though. She's thinking about that locked box Mrs. Dane mentioned, and the hidden room hinted at in the village archives. Somewhere in this house, she's sure, is a clue to the note and the stranger in the grey coat. Let's talk about what Miss Marple's looking for. She's methodical, not one to rummage aimlessly. She starts in the study, where Mrs. Dane said Colonel Bantry and his brother Edward had their big argument years ago. The room's a mess of cobwebs and forgotten papers, with a massive desk dominating the space. Miss Marple runs her fingers along the shelves, checking for loose panels or hidden drawers, things she's learned to look for from years of quiet sleuthing. She finds old ledgers, yellowed letters, and a photo of the Bantry family, including a young Clara, the daughter who ran off to London. But it's under the desk, tucked in a corner, that she spots something, a small, tarnished key, half buried in dust. It's not the locked box, but it's a start, and Miss Marple slips it into her pocket with a satisfied nod. Here's where Miss Marple's genius kicks in. That key might seem like nothing to most people, just a bit of old metal, but to her, it's a thread in the tapestry. She's thinking about the hidden room from the archives, wondering if this key might unlock it. She's also remembering the watermark on the note, the Bantry family crest, and how it ties the stranger to this house. Could the key belong to the locked box Mrs. Dane mentioned? Or is it for something else entirely? Miss Marple doesn't rush to answer. She's like a gardener tending a plant, giving it time to grow. Want to think like her? Here's a tip. When you find a clue, don't just focus on what it is. Think about what it connects to. A key's no good without a lock, just like a secret. No good without someone to keep it. Back in the village, the note's still stirring trouble. Mrs. Price at the post office is spreading a new rumour. She swears she saw Mr. Ellis, the vicar's assistant, near the manor late last night, carrying a lantern. Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, is acting jumpier than ever, muttering about cursed places when anyone mentions the manor. Even Tommy, the butcher's boy, is caught up in the drama, claiming he saw the stranger in the grey coat again, this time watching the manor from the woods. Miss Marple hears all this through her usual channels, neighbours chatting over fences, snippets at the tea shop, and files it away. She's building a picture, but it's not complete yet. The manor, she knows, holds the next piece. Let's dive deeper into her search. Miss Marple moves from the study to the upstairs, where the hidden room might be. The archives mentioned it was built during the Colonel's time, possibly to store valuables or secrets. She checks the bedrooms, tapping walls and listening for hollow spots. In Clara's old room, she finds something else, a diary tucked behind a loose floorboard. It's worn with faded ink, but the entries are Clara's, written before she left St. Mary Mead. Most are mundane village dances, her father's strict rules, but one page stands out. It mentions a promise to Edward, her uncle, about keeping the box safe. Miss Marple's heart skips. The locked box again. Clara knew about it, and maybe she knew where it was. This discovery is huge, but Miss Marple keeps her cool. She knows the diary's a clue, not the answer. It confirms the box is real and important, but where is it? And why is someone stirring? Things up now, years later. She's also thinking about the stranger in the grey coat. Is he Edward, back after all these years? Or someone else tied to the Bantrys? The key in her pocket feels heavier now, a tangible link to the past. She decides to check one more place, the manor's attic, where old furniture and forgotten trunks might hide something. Up there, among moth-eaten curtains and broken chairs, she finds a locked chestnut, the box, but close. The key doesn't fit, but it's another sign she's on the right track. Here's a detective tip for you. Don't let a dead end stop you. Miss Marple knows that not every clue solves the mystery right away. If you're trying to figure something out, maybe a workplace puzzle or a family secret, keep collecting pieces, even if they don't fit yet. Write them down, think about them, and let the pattern emerge. That's what Miss Marple's doing. As she dusts off her cardigan and heads back to her cottage, the diary and key safely tucked away. By now, St. Mary Mead is practically vibrating with gossip. The manor's open door hasn't gone unnoticed, and Mrs. Dane is fretting about letting Miss Marple borrow the key. Mr. Ellis, meanwhile, is asking more questions about the manor's history, which only makes Miss Marple more curious about him. She's not ready to confront anyone, though she's still waiting for the next domino to fall. The diary's given her a glimpse into the Bantry family's secrets, and the keys a promise of more to come. What's next? In our next chapter, Miss Marple will follow the trail of Clara's diary, uncovering a connection to the stranger in the grey coat that turns the mystery upside down. It's getting twistier, so don't miss it. If you're loving this cozy sleuthing, hit that like button and subscribe to catch the next chapter. Comment below, what do you think's in that locked box? Let's keep unraveling this mystery together. The fog rolls into St. Mary Mead, wrapping the village in a hush that feels like it's waiting for something to break. The mysterious note, the manor house, and now Clara's diary have set the stage for a deeper mystery, and Miss Marple's right in the thick of it. That old diary, found tucked behind a floorboard in the manor, has her mind buzzing with possibilities. Its cryptic mention of a promise to Edward Bantry about a locked box is a thread she can't ignore. Today, we're diving into Miss Marple's next move as she follows the diary's clues, uncovering a connection to the stranger in the grey coat that flips the mystery on its head. If you're loving this cozy whodunit, smash that like button and let's dig into the secrets together. Let's start in Miss Marple's parlour, where she's settled with a pot of tea and Clara's diary open on her lap. The pages are brittle. The ink faded, but Clara's words paint a vivid picture of St. Mary Mead in her day. Most entries are simple village fares, her father's stern lectures, her dreams of escaping to London, but that one line about the promise to Edward keeps pulling Miss Marple back. It reads, "Uncle Edward made me swear to keep the box safe, no matter what. He says it's the key to everything. The key to everything." Miss Marple's knitting needles pause. She's thinking about the small, tarnished key she found under the manor's desk, now resting in her pocket. Could it fit the box Clara's talking about? And why is this coming up now, years after Clara and Edward left the village? Miss Marple flips through the diary, looking for more. She finds another entry, dated just before Clara ran off. Father's furious with Uncle Edward. Something about the box and a debt. I heard them shouting in the study. Uncle says he'll be back for it one day. This is big. It ties the locked box to a family feud, and it suggests Edward Bantry might have a reason to return or send someone in his place, like the stranger in the grey coat. Miss Marple's mind is racing, connecting dots. She knows the stranger's been seen near the manor, leaving notes and watching from the shadows. Is he Edward, or someone tied to that old debt? She needs more to go on, so she decides to follow the diary's trail back to the village's gossip network. Let's talk about how Miss Marple works her magic. She heads to the tea shop, where Mrs. Dane is serving scones and stories to a small crowd. Miss Marple orders a slice of Victoria sponge and casually mentions Clara Bantry, watching Mrs. Dane's reaction. Sure enough, Mrs. Dane's apron fidgeting goes into overdrive. She spills that Clara was sweet but headstrong, always clashing with her father, Colonel Bantry. When Miss Marple nudges about Edward, Mrs. Dane lowers her voice. He was trouble, that one, she says. Left after a row with the colonel, something about money owed to a man in London. Never saw him again, but Clara was heartbroken. Miss Marple nods, sipping her tea. This fits with the diary, but it also raises a question. Was the debt just about money or something more? Here's a tip for sleuthing like Miss Marple. Listen to what people don't say. Mrs. Dane's nervous fidgeting tells Miss Marple more than her words. It's the same with Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, who's been avoiding the manor lately. When Miss Marple passes him on the village green, he's muttering about old debts stirring up trouble. She doesn't press him yet, but she notices. His hands are stained with fresh soil, not from the vicarage garden. Has he been digging somewhere else? Maybe near the manor. Then there's Mr. Ellis, the vicar's assistant, who's been poking into old records and blueprints. Miss Marple spots him at the church, flipping through a parish register with a frown. She's starting to wonder if he's looking for something specific, like a record of Edward or the box. Back to the diary. Miss Marple finds one more clue tucked. In its pages, a folded scrap of paper, not in Clara's handwriting. It's a rough sketch of the manor's garden, with an X marked near the old oak tree. There's a note scrawled beside it, where it's buried. Miss Marple's heart skips. Could the locked box be hidden in the garden, not the house? She thinks about Mr. Hobbs and his dirty hands, and the stranger lurking near the manor's back gate. This sketch is a game changer, but she needs to be sure. She decides to visit the manor's garden at dusk, when the village is quiet and prying eyes are indoors. Let's follow her there. The manor garden is overgrown, with tangled roses and weeds choking the paths. The old oak tree stands like a sentinel, its gnarled roots spreading wide. Miss Marple, armed with a small trowel from her gardening shed, kneels by the tree and probes the soil. It's loose, recently disturbed. Someone's been here before her. After a few minutes, her trowel hits something hard. It's not the box, but a small tin, rusted shut. Inside, she finds a locket with a photo of a young Clara and a man who looks like a younger Edward Bantry. There's also a note. "Forgive me, see, I'll come back for it." Miss Marple's mind races. The it must be the box, and this. Locket ties Edward and Clara to whatever's hidden here. This discovery flips the mystery. The stranger in the grey coat isn't just a random troublemaker. He's connected to Edward, maybe even Edward himself, back to claim the box. But why now? And what's in the box that's worth all this secrecy? Miss Marple thinks about the note's words. The keeper of secrets must come forward. Is Clara the keeper, or was it Edward? Or someone else entirely, like Mr. Ellis? Or even Mr. Hobbs? She's not ready to say, but she's building a picture, piece by piece. Want to sleuth like her? Here's another tip. When you find something big, like that locket, don't stop there. Think about who it connects to and why it matters. Every clue is a stepping stone. The village, meanwhile, is buzzing with new rumors. Tommy, the butcher's boy, swears he saw the stranger again, this time near the oak tree, carrying a shovel. Mrs. Price is spreading tales of a Bantry curse, which Miss Marple dismisses with a smile. She knows curses are just secrets, dressed up in superstition. But she's watching everyone closely, especially Mr. Ellis, who's been asking about Clara's time in London. Miss Marple tucks the locket and note into her bag, alongside the key and diary, and heads home. She's got enough to keep her knitting needles still for hours, her mind spinning with possibilities. What's next? In our next chapter, Miss Marple will chase the locket's clue to London, where Clara's past holds the key to the stranger's. identity and the box's secrets. It's about to get even twistier, so don't miss it. If you're hooked on this, the mist lingers over St. Mary Mead, giving the village an air of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Miss Marple's latest Finder locket and a note hidden in a tin under the manor's oak tree has tightened the knot of this mystery. The locket, with its photo of Clara Bantry and a man who could be her Uncle Edward, points to a promise kept long ago, and the note's words, "Forgive me, see, I'll come back for it," hint at a debt or a secret tied to the elusive locked box. The stranger in the grey coat, spotted near the oak tree with a shovel, is clearly after something, and Miss Marple's sure it's connected to Clara's time in London. Today, we're following her as she chases this clue beyond the village, digging into Clara's past to uncover the stranger's identity and the truth behind the box. If you're gripped by this cozy mystery, tap that like button and let's travel with Miss Marple to unravel the next layer. Miss Marple's not one for impulsive trips, but Clara's diary and the locket have her convinced that London holds answers. She's sitting in her parlour, the diary open, the locket and key on the table beside her teacup. The diary mentioned Clara's escape to London after a falling out with her father. Colonel Bantry and the locket's note suggests Edward was involved in whatever drove her away. Miss Marple's thinking about the stranger in the grey coat, his furtive movements, the note he left at the manor, and now his digging near the oak tree. Is he Edward, returned after years away, or someone else tied to Clara's London days? To find out, she decides to visit an old friend in London, Mrs. Hartnell, who knew Clara back then and might remember something useful. Let's follow Miss Marple to the train station. It's a crisp morning, and the platform at St. Mary Mead's tiny station is quiet, save for Tommy, the butcher's boy, who's delivering a parcel and eyeing Miss Marple curiously. She's dressed in her usual tweed coat, a sensible hat pinned neatly, and a small suitcase in hand. The train to London is a rare adventure for her, but she's calm, her mind already sifting through what she knows. The diary's mention of a debt between Edward and the Colonel, the sketch of the manor garden with an X by the oak tree, and the locket's photo all point to a family secret that didn't stay in St. Mary Mead. She's also thinking about Mr. Ellis, the vicar's assistant, who's been too interested in the manor's history, and Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, whose dirty hands suggest he's been digging where he shouldn't, in London. Miss Marple heads to Mrs. Hartnell's modest flat in Bloomsbury. Mrs. Hartnell is a chatty widow with a sharp memory for gossip, and over tea and biscuits she spills what she knows about Clara. Oh, Clara Bantry was a wild one, Mrs. Hartnell says, her eyes gleaming. Came to London in a huff, saying she'd never go back to that stuffy village. She worked as a typist for a solicitor, but she fell in with a fast crowd artists, actors, and a shady fellow named Victor Crane. That name catches Miss Marple's ear. Mrs. Hartnell goes on. Victor was a charming but dodgy sort, rumoured to deal in stolen goods. Clara was smitten, but after a year she vanished from London, leaving whispers of a scandal. Mrs. Hartnell doesn't. No details. But she remembers Clara mentioning a family obligation tied to her uncle, Edward. Here's where Miss Marple's knack for piecing things together shines. That family obligation sounds like the promise in Clara's diary to keep the locked box safe. Was Victor Crane part of the debt Edward owed? Miss Marple asks if Mrs. Hartnell ever saw Edward in London. Once, Mrs. Hartnell says, at a cafe with Clara, looking worried. He had a scar on his hand, I recall. A scar. Miss Marple files that away. The stranger in the grey coat was seen wearing gloves, which could hide a scar. She's starting to suspect the stranger might indeed be Edward, back to reclaim whatever's in that box. Want a sleuth like Miss Marple? Here's a tip when chasing. A lead, focus on specific details like a scar or a name that can tie people to places or events. It's the little things that crack a case wide open. Back in St. Mary Mead, the village is buzzing with its own drama. Mrs. Price at the post office is spreading a new story. Mr. Ellis was seen near the manor again, this time with a notebook, sketching something. Mr. Hobbs, meanwhile, has been avoiding everyone, and Tommy swears he saw him burning papers in his garden. Miss Marple hears these updates through a letter from Mrs. Dane, who's keeping an eye on things. These tidbits make Miss Marple wonder if Mr. Ellis or Mr. Hobbs knows more about the box or the stranger. She's also thinking about the lockets. Note, I'll come back for it. If Edward's the stranger, why wait so long? And if he's not, who is Victor Crane, and where does he fit? Miss Marple decides to dig deeper in London. She visits the solicitor's office where Clara worked, now run by a younger partner. He's reluctant but shares that Clara left abruptly after a personal matter. He recalls a man, possibly Victor Crane, visiting her, carrying a small, locked box. Bingo. Miss Marple's heart races, but she keeps her composure. The solicitor doesn't know what was in the box, but he overheard Clara say it was too dangerous to keep in London. This fits with the diary's mention of keeping the box safe. Miss Marple's now certain the box was sent back to St. Mary Mead, likely buried near the oak tree, and the strangers after it. But what's inside? Stolen goods, family heirlooms, or something worse? Let's talk about how Miss Marple connects these clues. She's like a knitter weaving threads into a pattern. The diary, the locket, the note at the manor, and now Victor. Crane's name all point to a secret Clara and Edward shared a secret someone's desperate to uncover. She thinks about the manor's hidden room, mentioned in the archives, and wonders if the box was moved there after Clara left. The key in her pocket, found under the manor's desk, might unlock it. She's also curious about Mr. Ellis's sketches and Mr. Hobbs's odd behavior. Could they be after the box too? Here's another detective tip. When you've got multiple suspects, look for their motives. Money, revenge, or fear can drive people to do strange things. By the time Miss Marple boards the train back to St. Mary Mead, her suitcase is heavier with knowledge. She's got a name, Victor Crane. Theory: the box holds something tied to Edward's debt, something Clara hid to protect her uncle. The stranger's note, the keeper of secrets must come forward. Might be a demand for Clara, whoever knows where the box is. Back in the village, the manor's still drawing attention, and Miss Marple's ready to confront the next clue. Head on, what's next? In our next chapter, Miss Marple will track down the stranger in the grey coat, leading to a tense encounter that reveals more about the box and its danger. The evening air in St. Mary Mead is heavy with secrets, and the village feels like it's teetering on the edge of a revelation. Miss Marple's trip to London has armed her with new clues. Clara Bantry's connection to a shady character named Victor Crane, a locked box tied to a family debt, and a locket hinting that Edward Bantry might be the stranger in the grey coat, back to claim what's his. That cryptic note, the keeper of secrets must come forward, or the truth will be told, is starting to make sense, but Miss Marple needs to face the stranger to confirm her suspicions. Today, we're diving into a tense encounter that brings her closer to the truth about the box and its dangerous contents. If you're as hooked on this mystery as I am, smack that like button and let's follow Miss Marple into the shadows. Miss Marple's back in her cozy parlour, knitting needles clicking, but her mind is far from calm. The locket's note, forgive me, see, I'll come back for it, and Clara's diary entries about a promise to Edward are swirling in her thoughts. She's also thinking about the stranger, spotted again near the manor's oak tree with a shovel. The village is buzzing with rumours, and Miss Marple's been listening through her open window. Mrs. Price swears the stranger was seen at the train station, buying a ticket but not boarding. Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, has been avoiding the manor entirely, and Mr. Ellis, the vicar's assistant, is still poking into old records, now asking about Edward Bantry by name. Miss Marple knows it's time to act. She needs to find the stranger before he digs up more than just dirt. Let's set the scene. It's dusk, and Miss Marple, in her tweed coat and sensible shoes, heads to the manor's garden where the oak tree stands as a silent clue. She's got the tarnished key from the manor study in her pocket, along with Clara's diary and the locket. Her plan is simple: wait and watch. The stranger's been drawn to this spot before, and she's betting he'll return. Sure enough, as the light fades, she spots a figure in a grey coat near the tree, moving quietly with a small spade. Miss Marple's no action hero, but she's fearless in her own way. She steps forward, her voice calm but firm. Good evening. I believe you're looking for something that doesn't belong to you. The stranger freezes, his face half hidden by a scarf. But she catches a glimpse of a scarred hand, Mrs. Hartnell's detail from London. Here's where Miss Marple's brilliance shines. She doesn't accuse or threaten, she observes. The stranger's gloves are off now, revealing the scar, and his eyes dart nervously. You're Jane Marple, he says, his voice low. I've heard you're clever. She smiles, unruffled, and asks about the note he left at the manor. He hesitates, then admits he's looking for a box Clara hid years ago. It's mine by right, he says, but won't say more. Miss Marple notices his accent London, with a hint of something else, and the way he glances at the oak tree. She's sure he's connected to Edward, maybe even Edward himself, but she needs proof. Want a sleuth like her? Here's a tip. When confronting someone, stay calm and ask open questions. People reveal more when they think you're harmless. The encounter doesn't last long. The stranger, clearly spooked, mutters something about debts being paid and slips into the woods before Miss Marple can press further. She doesn't chase him, she knows he'll be back. Instead, she examines the spot where he was digging. The soil's freshly turned, but there's no box. Just a small cloth bag with a single item, a gold pocket watch, engraved with the initials E.B. Edward Bantry. This is another piece of the puzzle, tying the stranger to the Bantry family. But it raises more questions. Why leave the watch buried? Was it a marker for the box's location, or something else? Miss Marple tucks the watch into her pocket, her mind racing. Let's talk about what this means for the mystery. The stranger's scarred hand and the watch point to Edward, but Miss Marple's not convinced it's that simple. The note's demand for the keeper of secrets suggests someone else knows where the box is, maybe Clara, or even Mr. Ellis or Mr. Hobbs. She's also thinking about Victor Crane, the London rogue Clara knew. Could the stranger be Victor, working for Edward or chasing the box for his own reasons? The watch is a clue, but it's the stranger's words, debts being paid, that stick with her. They echo the diary's mention of a debt between Edward and the Colonel, and Mrs. Hartnell's story of Victor's shady dealings. Back in the village, the gossips reaching fever pitch. Mrs. Dane, at the tea shop, says Mr. Ellis was seen arguing with Mr. Hobbs near the church, something about old promises. Tommy, the butcher's boy, claims he saw the stranger drop a letter near the manor, but it blew away before he could grab it. Miss Marple hears these snippets and adds them to her mental map. She's also curious about Mr. Ellis's obsession with the manor's records. Could he be after the box too, or is he protecting someone? Mr. Hobbs's nervous muttering and burned papers suggest he's hiding something, maybe tied to his digging. Miss Marple's building a picture, but it's still blurry. Here's another detective tip. When a clue leads to a dead end, like the stranger's escape, don't give up. Look at what's around it, the watch, the soil, the words he used. Miss Marple's doing just that, thinking about the manor's hidden room mentioned in the archives. The key in her pocket might unlock it, and the box could be there, not in the garden. She decides to return to the manor tomorrow, but first she visits the vicarage to ask Mr. Ellis about his research. He's evasive, saying he's just interested in history, but his hands shake when she mentions Edward Bantry. Another thread to pull. By nightfall, Miss Marple's back home, the pocket watch on her table next to the locket and key. She's closer to the truth, but the stranger's still a shadow, and the box remains elusive. The village is restless, sensing something big is coming. Miss Marple, though, is patient, knitting as she waits for the next clue to fall. What's next? In our next chapter, Miss Marple will revisit the manor's hidden room, where a shocking find ties the box to a crime that could shake St. Mary Mead to its core. It's getting intense, so don't miss it. If you're loving this mystery, hit that like button and subscribe to catch the next chapter. Comment below. Do you think the stranger is Edward, Victor, or someone else entirely? Let's keep sleuthing together. The moon hangs low over St. Mary Mead, casting an eerie glow on the village's quiet lanes. The stranger in the grey coat, the cryptic note, and now the gold pocket watch with Edward Bantry's initials have tightened the web of this mystery. Miss Marple's encounter with the stranger confirmed he's after the locked box Clara hid years ago, but his scarred hand and vague talk of debts being paid left more questions than answers. The tarnished key from the manor study and the village. Archives' mention of a hidden room are calling her back to the old house. Today, we're following Miss Marple as she uncovers a shocking find in the manor's hidden room, tying the box to a crime that could unravel St. Mary Mead's peaceful facade. If you're gripped by this cozy mystery, hit that like button and let's step into the manor's shadows together. Miss Marple's in her parlour, the locket, diary, key, and pocket watch spread before her like pieces of a puzzle. The watch, engraved with EB, strengthens her suspicion that the stranger is Edward Bantry or someone close to him. Clara's diary mentioned a promise to keep the box safe, and Mrs. Hartnell's London gossip pointed to a shady figure, Victor Crane, tied to a debt. The stranger's digging near the manor's oak tree suggests the box is close, but Miss Marple's gut tells her the hidden room, noted in the archives, is the real key. She's also watching Mr. Ellis, the vicar's assistant, whose shaky hands betrayed his nerves when she mentioned Edward, and Mr. Hobbs, the gardener, who's been burning papers and avoiding the manor. With Mrs. Dane's key in hand, Miss Marple heads back to the manor, determined to find that room. Let's set the scene. The manor's heavy door creaks as Miss Marple steps inside, her flashlight cutting through the dusty gloom. The house feels alive with secrets, its silence heavy with anticipation. She heads upstairs, past Clara's old room where she found the diary. and focuses on the east wing, where the archives hinted at a concealed space. She taps walls, listening for hollow sounds, her fingers tracing the faded wallpaper. In a narrow hallway, she notices a panel slightly askew, its edges misaligned. Pressing gently, she hears a click, and the panel swings open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down to a small, locked door. Her heart quickens as she pulls out the tarnished key. Fits perfectly. The door groans open, and Miss Marple steps into a hidden room, untouched for years. The room's a treasure trove of secrets. Dusty shelves hold old ledgers, a cracked mirror reflects her flashlight's beam, and a small safe sits in the corner, its lock gleaming despite the years. The key doesn't fit the safe, but Miss Marple's not discouraged. She searches the room, finding a bundle of letters tied with string, addressed to Colonel Bantry. The handwriting matches the stranger's note. The keeper of secrets must come forward. Her pulse races. The letters are from Edward, written years ago, pleading for forgiveness over a terrible mistake involving Victor Crane. One letter mentions a box hidden in the manor, containing proof of the crime. Miss Marple's mind whirs, this is the locked box, and it's tied to something criminal, not just a family debt. Here's where Miss Marple's genius comes alive. She doesn't just read the letters, she analyzes them. The crime Edward mentions is vague, but references to Victor Crane and a stolen legacy suggest something valuable: jewels, perhaps, or documents that got Edward in trouble. She thinks about Clara's diary, which mentioned keeping the box safe, and the locket's note, "I'll come back for it." The safe in the room is the obvious hiding place, but it's locked tight. Miss Marple notices scratch marks around. The lock someone's tried to force it open recently. Could it be the stranger, Mr. Ellis, or even Mr. Hobbs? Want to sleuth like Miss Marple? Here's a tip: when you find evidence, like those letters, look for signs of tampering or recent activity. It tells you who else is on the trail, back in the village. The tension's palpable. Mrs. Dane, at the tea shop, whispers that Mr. Ellis was seen near the manor again, carrying a crowbar. Tommy, the butcher's boy, swears he saw Mr. Hobbs digging in his own garden at midnight, muttering about cursed Bantry. Miss Marple hears these snippets through Mrs. Price, who's thrilled to be the gossip hub. These clues point to a race for the box. Mr. Ellis with his sketches and Spitzer Hobbs with his burned papers are both acting guilty. Miss Marple's also thinking about the stranger's scarred hand, matching Mrs. Hartnell's description of Edward. Is he back to clear his name, or to cover up the crime? The letters suggest the box holds evidence that could ruin someone, but who? Let's dig deeper into the room's secrets. Miss Marple finds one more clue, a torn photograph behind the safe, showing Edward, Clara, and a third man, possibly Victor. Crane outside a London pub. The back reads, "The deal went wrong. 1915. This ties the box to a specific time and place." And Miss Marple's mind goes to the stories of Victor's shady dealings. Was the crime a theft gone bad? A betrayal? She's starting to think the box contains proof, maybe stolen jewels or forged documents that could expose Edward or Victor. The safe's lock is too complex for her to crack, but she notices a faint outline of a smaller box's shape in the dust nearby. Someone's already taken it, moved it. Here's another detective tip. When you hit a wall, like that locked safe, look for what's missing. The absence of the box in the room tells Miss Marple someone's been here, and the scratch marks suggest they were desperate. She's betting the stranger got to it first, or maybe Mr. Ellis, whose crowbar could explain the marks. She's also curious about Mr. Hobbs's midnight digging. Could he have the box, or is he hiding something else? Miss Marple leaves the manor, the letters tucked in her bag, her mind piecing together a crime from a decade ago that's resurfacing now by morning. St. Mary Mead is a powder keg of whispers. Mrs. Price spreads word of Miss Marple's manor visit, and Mr. Ellis is avoiding the vicarage, claiming he's ill. Mr. Hobbs is nowhere to be seen, his cottage locked tight. Miss Marple, knitting in her parlour, is calm but focused. The letters and the empty safe have brought her closer to the truth, but the box and its dangerous contents is still out there. What's next? In our next chapter, Miss Marple will confront Mr. Ellis and Mr. Hobbs, forcing a revelation that brings the locked box into the open and exposes the keeper of secrets. It's getting juicy, so don't miss it. If you're loving this mystery, hit that like button and subscribe to catch the next chapter. Comment below. Do you think the box holds jewels, documents, or something darker? Let's keep sleuthing together. The morning mist clings to St. Mary Mead, wrapping the village in a veil of unease that mirrors the tangled web of secrets Miss Marple's been unraveling. The hidden room's letters, with their talk of a terrible mistake and a stolen legacy, have tied the locked box to a crime involving Edward Bantry and the shadowy Victor Crane. The empty safe and fresh scratch marks suggest someone may be the stranger in the grey coat. Mr. Ellis or Mr. Hobbs already moved the box. The village is a hive of whispers, with Mr. Ellis dodging questions and Mr. Hobbs locking himself away, both acting like they've got something to hide. Miss Marple, armed with Clara's diary, the locket, the pocket watch, and now Edward's letters, is ready to confront the suspects and force the truth into the open. Today, we're diving into a dramatic showdown that reveals the locked box and brings the mysterious keeper of secrets into the light. If you're as gripped by this cozy mystery as I am, smash that like button and let's untangle this knot together. Miss Marple's parlour is her command centre. The table cluttered with clues, the tarnished key, the locket with Clara and Edward's photo, the gold pocket watch engraved with EB, Clara's diary mentioning a promise, and the letters from the manor's hidden room. Her knitting lies, untouched cheese, too focused. The letters mention of a crime in 1915, tied to Victor Crane and a stolen legacy, points to something valuable, maybe jewels or documents hidden in the box. The stranger's note, the keeper of secrets, must come forward, or the truth will be told, suggests someone knows where the box is. And Miss Marple's betting it's either Mr. Ellis, with his sneaky sketches and nervous hands, or Mr. Hobbs, whose midnight digging and burned papers scream guilt. She's also thinking about the stranger's scarred hand, matching Mrs. Hartnell's description of Edward. Is he the keeper, or is he hunting them? She decides to confront both men, but carefully she knows a cornered suspect can be unpredictable. Let's start with Mr. Ellis. Miss Marple heads to the vicarage, where the vicar, Mr. Clement, is fretting over his assistant's absence. She finds Mr. Ellis in the churchyard, clutching his notebook, his face pale. "Good morning, Mr. Ellis," she says, her voice gentle but sharp. "I hear you've been studying the manor's history. Found anything about Edward Bantry?" His hands shake, and he stammers that he's just researching for a sermon. Miss Marple smiles, mentioning the hidden room and the scratched safe. His eyes widened, he knows something. She presses, casually noting the crowbar he was seen with. "Near the manor. I was just checking the grounds," he blurts, but his voice cracks. Miss Marple's not buying it. She mentions the letters, watching his reaction. "You've been looking for a box, haven't you?" she asks. Mr. Ellis bolts, dropping his notebook, which Miss Marple scoops up. Inside are sketches of the manors. East wing, with the hidden room marked. Bingo, now. Let's talk about Mr. Hobbs. Miss Marple visits his cottage, finding it locked but with smoke curling from the chimney someone's home. She knocks, calling out, "Mr. Hobbs, I'd like a word about the manor's garden." No answer, but she hears a scuffle inside. She tries again, mentioning the oak tree and the buried watch. The door creaks open, and Mr. Hobbs, dishevelled and red-eyed, glares at her. "Leave it alone, Miss Marple," he growls. "Some things are best left buried." She notices his hands caked with fresh soil, just like when she saw him digging at midnight. She keeps her tone light, asking about the burned papers. His face twists, and he mutters, "I burned nothing important." But Miss Marple's seen enough liars to know he's hiding something big. She thanks him and leaves, her mind racing. Mr. Hobbs has been digging, but for what? Here's where Miss Marple's genius kicks in. She doesn't just confront, she observes, piecing together reactions like threads in a tapestry. Mr. Ellis's dropped notebook and Mr. Hobbs's guilty muttering confirm they're both tied to the box. But how? She thinks about the stranger's encounter, his scarred hand, and his claim that the box is his by right. The letter's mention of a crime with Victor Crane suggests the box holds evidence, maybe stolen goods from 1915. She's also recalling Clara's diary, where she promised to keep the box safe. Was Clara the keeper of secrets, or did she pass that role to someone like Mr. Hobbs or Mr. Ellis? Want to sleuth like Miss Marple? Here's a tip: when confronting suspects, watch their body language, shaking hands, averted eyes, or sudden. Anger can betray more than their words. Back at the manor, Miss Marple decides to check the garden again, near the oak tree where the stranger was digging. The soil's been disturbed again, deeper this time. She kneels, using her trowel, and unearths a small, locked box iron, heavy, with the Bantry crest etched on it. Her heart skips. This is it, the box Clara hid, the one Edward and Victor fought over. The tarnished key doesn't fit, but she notices fresh scratches on the lock, matching those on the hidden room's safe. Someone's tried to open it recently. She doesn't dare crack it open here, too risky with the stranger lurking. Instead, she wraps it in her shawl and heads to the vicarage, hoping Mr. Clement can keep it safe while she figures out who's after it. The village is a powder keg now. Mrs. Price, at the post office, spreads word of Miss Marple's manor visits, and Mrs. Dane's apron fidgeting is at an all-time high she's heard about. Mr. Ellis's flight and Mr. Hobbs's locked door. Tommy, the butcher's boy, swears he saw the stranger in the grey coat near the church, watching Miss Marple. She's not fazed, but she's cautious, keeping the box hidden under her coat as she reaches the vicarage. There, Mr. Clement agrees to lock it in his safe, but as she hands it over, Mr. Ellis bursts in, wild-eyed. "That's mine," he shouts, lunging for the box. Miss Marple steps back, calm as ever, and says, "Yours, Mr. Ellis, or Edward Bantry's." His face crumples, and he confesses he's Edward's son, sent to find the box to clear his father's name. The keeper of secrets, he says, was Clara, but she's long gone. This revelation flips the mystery. Mr. Ellis, Edward's son, knows the box holds proof of a 1915 theft Victor Crane pinned on Edward, forcing him to flee. The stolen legacy was a set of rare jewels hidden by Clara to protect her uncle. Mr. Ellis says his father's dead, but someone else may be Victor sent the stranger to find the box. Miss Marple's mind races. The stranger's scarred hand doesn't match Mr. Ellis's story, and Mr. Hobbs's digging suggests he knows more. Here's another tip. When a suspect confesses, don't take it at face value. Miss Marple's already wondering if Mr. Ellis is lying about his father or if Mr. Hobbs is the real threat. By evening, the box is safe, but the mystery's far from solved. Miss Marple's back home, knitting to steady her thoughts. The stranger's still out there, and Mr. Hobbs's silence is deafening. The village feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the final truth. What's next? In our final chapter, Miss Marple will face the stranger one last time, uncovering the true keeper of secrets and the crime that's haunted St. Mary Mead for decades. It's the big finale, so don't miss it. The dawn breaks over St. Mary Mead with a golden glow, but the village is anything but calm. The locked box, now safely stowed in the vicarage, holds the key to a decades-old crime involving Edward Bantry, Victor Crane, and a set of stolen jewels. Miss Marple's confrontation with Mr. Ellis revealed he's Edward's son. Desperate to clear his father's name, but his story doesn't fully add up. The stranger in the grey coat, with his scarred hand and cryptic notes, is still at large. And Mr. Hobbs's secretive digging and burned papers hint he's hiding something big. Miss Marple's clues, Clara's diary, the locket, the pocket watch, the letters, and the box itself, all pointing to a final showdown. Today, we're diving into the climactic moment where Miss Marple faces the stranger, uncovers the true keeper of secrets, and reveals a truth that shakes St. Mary Mead to its core. If you've been hooked on this cozy mystery, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's unravel the final thread together. Miss Marple's parlour is a quiet haven, but her mind is a storm of connections. The iron box, etched with the Bantry crest, sits in the vicarage safe, but she knows it won't stay safe for long. Not with the stranger prowling and Mr. Hobbs acting like a man with a secret too heavy to carry. She's piecing together the clues. Clara's diary about a promise to Edward. The locket's note saying, "I'll come back for it." The letters mentioning a 1915 theft. And Mr. Ellis's claim that the box holds proof of his father's innocence. The stranger's scarred hand matches Mrs. Hartnell's description of Edward, but Mr. Ellis insists his father's dead. And then there's Mr. Hobbs, whose midnight digging and burned papers suggest he's more than just a nervous gardener. Miss Marple's sure the truth lies in tying these threads together, and she's ready to set a trap. Let's set the stage. Miss Marple spreads word through Mrs. Dane at the tea shop that the box has been found and will be opened at the vicarage. Tonight, under the vicar's supervision, it's a calculated move. She knows the stranger, and maybe Mr. Hobbs, will be drawn out. She visits the vicarage early, where Mr. Clement is nervous but agrees to her plan. The box is brought out, its iron surface gleaming under the lamplight. Mr. Ellis is there, fidgeting, his eyes darting to the door. Miss Marple notices his notebook, now back in his hands, with a new sketch of the manor's garden. She's also watching the windows, expecting the stranger. Sure enough, as the clock strikes 8, a shadow moves outside a figure in a grey coat. Miss Marple signals Mr. Clement to stay calm and opens the door. Her voice steady. "I believe you've been looking for this box. Shall we talk?" The stranger steps inside, his scarf lowered, revealing a weathered face and a scarred hand. "You're persistent, Miss Marple," he says, his voice gruff but familiar. She studies him, noting the resemblance to the locket's photo of Edward. Before she can speak, Mr. Hobbs bursts in, wild-eyed, a shovel in hand. "It's mine," he shouts, lunging for the box. Mr. Clement grabs him, and in the chaos, Miss Marple stays composed, her eyes flicking between the men. "Gentlemen," she says, "let's open the box and see who's telling the truth." Mr. Ellis protests, saying it's his father's legacy, but the stranger's glare silences him. Miss Marple pulls out the tarnished key, then hesitates it didn't fit the box before. Instead, she asks Mr. Clement to fetch a locksmith from the village. Here's where Miss Marple's brilliance shines. She's not just opening the box, she's watching reactions. The stranger's jaw tightens. Mr. Hobbs is sweating, and Mr. Ellis is gripping his notebook like a lifeline. The locksmith arrives, and with a few deft twists, the box clicks open. Inside are a velvet pouch of sparkling jewels, emeralds, and sapphires, and a folded letter. Miss Marple reads it aloud. It's from Clara, dated 1915, confessing she hid the jewels to protect Edward from Victor Crane, who framed him for stealing them from a London dealer. Clara writes, "I'm the keeper of secrets, and I'll take this to my grave." The room goes silent. Mr. Ellis gasps, the stranger curses, and Mr. Hobbs collapses into a chair, muttering, "I knew it was there." Let's break this down. Clara was the keeper of secrets, hiding the jewels to save Edward from prison. The stranger, Miss Marple realizes, is Victor Crane himself, not Edward. His scarred hand was a red herring. Mrs. Hartnell's memory was fuzzy, and Victor's been using Edward's name to stir up the village. He sent the note to flush out the box, knowing Clara was gone. Mr. Ellis, Edward's son, was after the jewels to prove his father's innocence, but Mr. Hobbs's role is murkier. Miss Marple turns to him, her voice gentle but firm. "You've been digging, Mr. Hobbs. Did you work for Victor years ago?" Hobbs breaks, sobbing. He confesses he was Victor's lookout in 1915, paid to keep quiet about the theft. When Clara hid the jewels, he stayed in St. Mary Mead, tending the manor's garden, hoping to find them. His burned papers were letters from Victor, threatening to expose him. "Want a sleuth, like Miss Marple? Here's a tip. When the truth comes out, watch for the one who breaks first." Hobbs's confession ties up the loose ends. Victor, not Edward, was the mastermind, and Hobbs was his reluctant accomplice. Miss Marple explains. Victor returned, posing as Edward, to force the keeper Clara, or whoever knew her secret, to reveal the box. Mr. Ellis, unaware of Victor's survival, was chasing his father's redemption. The jewels, now in the open, are proof of Edward's innocence, but they also expose Victor's crime. The stranger Victor tries to flee, but Tommy, the butcher's boy, alerted by the village gossip, has gathered a crowd outside.